Well, welcome to the Ware Show, where we are passionate about going to the next level in life and in leadership. And just want to take a moment to say thank you for all the support, all the encouragement that's come in over the last week or so as we rebranded the podcast to reflect my voice, my vision, my values. So grateful for all of you who watch and listen. And my sincere hope is that what I have to say helps you grow personally and professionally, and ultimately makes you better. Welcome to the Ware Show, a podcast for leaders who want more and won't settle for less. Straight talk to help you lead better, live bolder, and not lose yourself in the process. If you're serious about going to the next level in life and leadership, you're in the right place. Craig Rochelle always says that everyone wins when the leader gets better. I'll never forget the first time that I listened to his podcast, probably a decade ago now. Still one of my favorites, by the way. If you don't listen to the Craig Rochelle Leadership Podcast, you should. But the first time that I listened, the first time I heard him make that statement, everyone wins when the leader gets better, my initial reaction was to say, no, everyone else needs to get better. My team needs to get better. The people around me need to get better, and then the organization will be better. Couldn't possibly have anything to do with me, right? Of course, that just revealed my lack of self-awareness, my own insecurities, and all of that, because as I've grown, I've realized he's absolutely right. As goes the leader, so goes the team. As goes the leader, so goes the organization. So many leaders think that their team needs to get better, and they don't realize that they need to get better. Right? It's the John Maxwell law of the lid. The leader is the lid on the organization. The leader sets the bar. The leader sets the standard. The leader sets the tone. The organization will not grow or will not outgrow the person that's leading it. So when you get better, your organization gets better. Everyone wins when the leader gets better. This concept really is core to my vision, my philosophy around leadership. I have the privilege of coaching and consulting leaders in for-profit and nonprofit organizations in different industries and different settings. And of course, I absolutely love getting to do that. And almost every time I begin working with a leader, there's some problem, there's some challenge in the organization that they are trying to solve, that they're trying to overcome or push past. And almost every single time, what I discover and what I help them discover is that they are the problem. Okay, I've got good news and I've got bad news. The bad news is that if you are a leader, you are the problem in your organization. The good news is that if you're a leader, you are also the solution to that problem in your organization. And I don't care what the problem is that you're dealing with. If you're the leader, you are the problem. Because you either created the situation or you tolerated it. You either actively caused it or you passively allowed it. And either way, it's your problem to fix. The good news is that because you're the leader, you can fix it. You can change it. You can reverse course. You can change the culture. You can rebuild the team. You can do whatever it is that you need to do. You may be the problem, but you are also the solution. And that's why this show is really focused on helping leaders grow personally and professionally, because in 30 plus years of leading and coaching other leaders, I really do believe that when the leader gets better, everyone and everything around them gets better too. So let's dive in today to something that I believe is going to help us do that. Earlier this summer, I took my kids on a trip to Puerto Rico. May have been the best family vacation we've ever been on. Absolutely beautiful island, incredible experience, wonderful people, might be my favorite Caribbean destination. And spent months researching and planning and laying out the itinerary for all the places that I wanted to go and the things that I wanted us to do. Of course, got some input from the kids on their preferences and all of that. And one of the activities that we all agreed we wanted to do was to go horseback riding, and specifically to ride horses on the beach. So found an outfitter that offered that, and it was the last big activity that we had on the schedule for our 9-day trip. And, we showed up, we're ready to just enjoy the ride and the experience. And the wranglers started asking questions about our experience with horses. And, I wouldn't classify myself as a cowboy, but I have been around horses since I was a kid. I'm pretty comfortable with them. And so they gave me what they considered to be one of the most challenging of all the horses in their stable. This horse was actually a rescue. In fact, they named him Rescudo. And I know I didn't pronounce that right for all my Spanish-speaking friends, but bear with me. Rescudo. They had rehabilitated him. They had retrained him, all of that. But they told me that most people did not enjoy riding him because he was so aggressive, so strong-willed, and you really have to be dialed in, and you have to know how to handle him. And sometimes you get the horse that resembles you, and it was not lost on me that I have been accused of being strong-willed and aggressive more than once in my life. So me and Rescudo were a perfect match. For the next 2 hours, I felt like all I did was hold him back. He wanted to run, not walk. He wanted to be in the front of the line, not behind the wrangler. He wanted to decide which trail to go down, not follow the horse in front of him. And it drove him crazy that he was being held back. It's like I was pulling on the reins almost the whole time, right? And it's like this just grated against everything in his nature, everything in his wiring, everything in his psyche to not be given the rein to just do what he was born to do. It was actually harder on him to go slow than to go fast. It was harder for him to follow than to lead. It was harder on him to obey someone else's instructions than to just make his own decisions. It was harder on him to fall in line than it was to get to the front of the line. He was exhausting himself and exhausting me by being held back. And the reason why is because this horse was born to be a leader. And throughout that ride, I was just seeing all these parallels between this horse and me, how well suited we were for each other because my personality and my wiring and my nature, my gifting is exactly the same. I don't like being held back. It's exhausting to me to hold back. I would rather go fast than slow. I'd rather lead than follow. I'd rather give direction than take it. I'd rather have the rein to make my own decisions and then to own those decisions. And rather do that than be subject to somebody else's decisions, right? I don't want to be held back because I was born to be a leader. If you're a leader, you want to be in control of your own destiny. If you're a leader, you want to carry the weight of responsibility even if it feels heavy. If you're a leader, you want to make your own decisions and then own those decisions. If you're a leader, you want to give direction rather than take it. If you're a leader, you want to run, you want to move, you want to go. You do not want to be held back because you were born to lead. And the aha moment that came to me on that 2-hour horseback ride is that the only difference between me and Rescuto is that no one is holding me back besides me. I'm the only one who holds me back from the passion and the purpose and the potential that's inside of me. And what I want to tell you today is that the same thing is true for you. No one is holding you back besides you. I talk to leaders all the time who feel like someone or something is holding them back, as if they're the horse and there's this invisible rider in the saddle who's holding the reins and pulling on the bit and keeping them locked into a life that they don't really want to live. And if that's you, I just want you to know no one is holding you back besides you. If you feel like you're being held back right now, you feel like you're not free to run, free to lead, free to live the life that you want to, you may have bought into a lie. Because the truth is that if you are a leader, no one is holding you back besides you. And as I've reflected on that experience and those observations over the last few months, I've determined that there are 4 things that cause leaders to hold themselves back from what they're truly capable of. 4 things that cause leaders to hold themselves back from their passion, from their purpose, and from their potential. So let's get into them. The first one is this. It's the fear of what other people think. Fear of what other people think. Man, every one of us is familiar with this fear, right? I don't care who you are. I don't care how strong you are. I don't care how long you've been leading or at what level you've been leading. Everyone cares about what people think about them, right? It's just being human. The difference between average leaders and great leaders is not whether they care about what people think about them. It's that they choose to not allow the fear of what other people think to hold them back from making decisions and taking action and moving forward and rising up to their potential. You've heard the saying that courage is not the absence of fear, it's the triumph over that fear. Great leaders have a fear of what people think about them because everyone does. Great leaders are human too. They simply don't allow that fear to drive them. They don't let it make decisions for them. They don't let it determine how they're going to live, how they're going to lead. And in my experience, this fear, the fear of what other people think about them or say about them or feel about them, that's probably the number one thing that holds leaders back from being everything that they should be and doing everything they should do. And I struggle with this too. Some of you know for years I was a pastor, and pastors have this weird role of being in a position of significant leadership, but also feeling like they really do need to keep people happy, maybe more than the average CEO does. I think every leader wants to keep people happy, but pastors are particularly prone to this. And so as a pastor, there were times I found myself in a position where I was giving disproportionate weight to what people thought about a decision or direction or communication. And it was from good intention, right? I mean, I loved the people and I wanted to serve them and all of that. But I didn't fully realize at the time how much I was allowing the fear of what other people thought to creep in too much and affect my leadership. And so I'll give you some candid perspective a few years on the other side of that. And that is that there's just about nobody whose opinion I took so seriously and feared so much who is even in my life today. I think back about how I had this fear of what other people thought, and those people aren't even around now. And it begs the question, why do you care so much about what other people think when chances are those people won't even be in your life a few years from now anyway? I'm talking about your customers, your clients, some of your congregation members, some of your volunteers, some of your staff team, honestly, even some of your friends, some of your personal relationships. They won't be around in a few years. So why are you so afraid of what they think about you today? Leadership is this incredibly fine art of caring about your people, but not compromising on your purpose. You have to care about people. We use this phrase servant leadership because that's the whole goal of leadership, to serve the people that have been entrusted to your care. But you're also tasked with a purpose and with a vision that cannot be compromised just because of what other people think or say or feel. Great leaders care about people, and great leaders also refuse to compromise on their purpose. This is the tension that great leaders live in. But you'll never reach and you'll never sustain high-level leadership if you allow the fear of what other people think to hold you back from your purpose. I've got 2 teenage kids. 13 and 15 as of the week of this recording. And I see this front and center with them all the time, right? I mean, the opinion of their friends matters so much to them. And I have to remind them sometimes that what seems like a big deal today, I promise you, it won't be a big deal in a few years or definitely not in a few decades from now. I mean, you know how many people from middle school or high school are still in my life today? Okay, I can count them on one hand. So why would you let people who won't even be around tomorrow have such an influence on your decisions today? Leaders, listen to me. Do not allow the opinion of someone who will not be with you tomorrow to determine what you do today. We're talking about things that leaders have in their lives that cause them to hold themselves back. And the first one is the fear of what others think. The second is the fear of being too much. The fear of being too much. Now, this may depend a little bit on your personality and your temperament and your wiring and all of that, but speaking for myself and for a lot of the leaders I know, leaders can hold themselves back sometimes because they have a fear of being too much. They fear having too big of a personality, having too big of a presence, taking up too much space, being more than what the people around them can handle. Maybe you've been told you're a little much. Maybe you've been told you're a little extra, right? Well, welcome to leadership. This is a fear that I have had and a fear that I've dealt with from the time that I was a teenager, when I began to really understand how I was uniquely wired and gifted and what my personality type was and all of those things. Back in those days, which was in the early 90s, some of you listening or watching now, I know your birth year started with a 2 and not a 1, so bear with me on this. But in those days, the most popular personality assessment was the DISC, the DISC test. Still very popular today, especially in the corporate space. And I was about 16 or so when when I first took that and discovered that on this assessment, I was what's called a high D. And if you're not familiar with that terminology, the D in the DISC test basically represents characteristics of somebody who's a driver, somebody who's very dominant. Okay, people who we sometimes tend to think are too much. And growing up in a faith-based environment, that was actually seen as a bad thing. I mean, the joke in our circles was that D stood for devil, right? Because we all know that Jesus was just meek and mild and quiet and peaceful and nice and all of that, right? So being a D means you weren't very spiritual. And so I was conditioned by the environment that I was in to think that my personality, my temperament maybe was more of a curse than a blessing. And, of course, over the years, I grew personally in self-awareness and all of that, begin to discover that, through Strength Finders, which is another great assessment, that some of my greatest strengths were command and achiever and significance and competition. Took the Enneagram, right? And I'm an 8 on the Enneagram. So if you're familiar with those things, this is painting a picture for you, right? All that adds up to me having this constant feeling, this underlying fear that I might be too much. And I know a lot of leaders who feel this way. Your assessment results may be different than mine, but I know this to be true. A lot of leaders feel like they are too much to handle, too much for the people around them. They take up too much space. They take up too much room. And so what happens is that when you feel like you are too much, most of the time you end up dialing it down, pulling it back. You end up playing it small. You bring yourself down to a level that you think other people can appreciate or at least can tolerate. You try to make other people feel comfortable. And I want to challenge you that if you are a leader, your job is not to make other people feel comfortable. Your job is to create an environment that brings change, an environment that brings growth, an environment that brings momentum, and none of that is comfortable. I'm not talking about being a jerk. I'm not talking about mistreating people or any of that. I'm talking about not making how other people feel about you your primary filter for how you are and who you are. Listen, your feelings are not my responsibility. Your feelings are your responsibility. I don't need to hold myself back because you feel like I'm too much. Like I heard someone say once, maybe I'm not intimidating, maybe you're just intimidated. I don't need to play small because you feel small. I will not live in the fear of being too much. And if you are a leader, you shouldn't live in that fear either. All right, we're talking about the fears that hold us back as leaders. Fear of what others think and fear of being too much. By the way, if you want to look at somebody who has learned to overcome these fears, I think President Trump is a great person to look at. I don't care if you like him. I don't care if you agree with him politically. I'm just talking about look at him as a person. This is a dude who does not care what people think about him, doesn't care what people say about him, doesn't care how they feel about him, and is not afraid of being too much. Okay, there's something for us to learn in that example. The third area that I think we can hold ourselves back in is the fear of failure. I don't need to spend a lot of time on this because we all know this is true for every one of us, right? I mean, every leader on some level is afraid of failing. We want to get it right. We want it to work. We want to win. We want to be successful. And most of us are competitive. We hate losing. We hate failing. We hate getting a tick in the loss column. We hate getting our butts handed to us. But what every great leader knows is that you cannot live in fear of failure because you are going to fail. It's absolutely inevitable. It's not a matter of if you fail. It's a matter of when you fail. It's just a matter of how big you fail. The only people who don't fail are the people who don't do anything, the people who don't try anything, the people who don't risk anything. People who have no dreams, no desires, no vision, no aspirations. The only people who don't fail are people who are dead. You don't need to fear failure. You actually need to expect it, and you need to embrace it. Here's a few reasons why you don't need to fear failure. First one is because failure is actually part of success. Most people think failure is the opposite of success, but what leaders know is that failure is actually part of success. These things go together. In fact, you cannot succeed without failing. I remember when I heard John Maxwell teach about that, about the idea that so many people try to keep failure and success apart. They hope they never touch, they never meet. But really what we need to do is bring them together, narrow the gap between our failures and our successes, because the faster we fail, the better. That means that we can succeed faster. Don't fear failure because failure is actually part of the journey to your success. Another reason we shouldn't fear failure is because we learn more from failure than we do from success. And maybe we shouldn't, but we do, right? I mean, this is human nature. We celebrate our victories, but we study our losses, right? I mean, you see this every year after the Super Bowl, right? The team that wins throws a party. They have a parade. They celebrate. But the team that loses, they put their heads together. They get more serious about learning and growing and making improvements and studying what they need to do to get better in the off season. My dad always said that success is for your pleasure and failure is for your learning. We can learn from the good and the bad, but we tend to learn more from our failures than we do from our successes. Another reason we shouldn't fear failure is because the fear of failure is usually worse than the failure itself. The fear of failure is usually worse than the failure itself. And we all know, we all agree. I mean, failure sucks, right? I mean, there's no way around that. But usually it's worse in our heads than it is in reality. We build up this dread, this anxiety, this fear of failure to be a much bigger thing than it actually is. Is it painful? Sure. Is it embarrassing? You bet. Does our ego get bruised? Does our credibility take a hit? Maybe so. But it's usually worse internally than it is externally. I love how Alex Hormozy says it. He said, we suffer more from the fear of failure than from the actual failure. We suffer more from the fear of failure than from the actual failure. Okay, we're talking about how leaders hold themselves back. Number one, fear of what other people think. Number two, fear of being too much. Number three, fear of failure. And number four, the fear of success. The fear of success. Now, this may be, a controversial one or the least obvious one. Most people can see how we hold ourselves back because of fear of failure. But I think there may be something that's even more sneaky, more subtle, more subliminal, more under the surface that causes us to hold ourselves back. And it's actually the fear of success. And I know the surface, kind of off the cuff response is, why in the world would I fear success? I mean, that's the very thing I'm working for. That's what I'm trying to achieve. That's what all of this is about. Okay, and I get that. Every leader wants to be successful in the thing they're doing, in the venture that they're leading. But here's what I've learned. That if you're willing to dig a little deeper, if you're willing to get to some of the hidden places in your soul, if you'll sit with some of your inner thoughts and emotions, if you'll learn to pay attention to what's really going on inside of you, many leaders are actually scared of being successful. Now, they would never say that, and at a conscious level, they don't even think that. But I'm not talking about what it looks like or feels like on the surface, on the outside, what everyone else can see or can celebrate. I'm talking about what your outer success would mean in contrast to your inner self. See, the things leaders don't like to talk about or even think about are their insecurities, their imposter syndrome, their deep feeling of unworthiness, that they don't deserve this, the feeling that maybe they can't fully enjoy it or embrace it when things go well, the sense of self-consciousness when they're winning, that they need to hide it or downplay it or put qualifiers on it. For many leaders, this fear of success, not the fear of failure, is what simultaneously drives them forward and holds them back. They had to prove something to someone, and they also feel like they don't deserve it when they get it. They had to overcome something traumatic from their childhood, and they also feel guilty when they've done well compared to their friends or family members. They had to rebuild their life after a catastrophic event, and they see how so many others never recovered, and they don't really know what to do with that. They're afraid of winning too much. They fear their own success. I love the quote from Marianne Williamson because I think it highlights this so well. She said, "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant and gorgeous and talented and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We're all meant to shine, as all children do. We're born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Man, what a powerful quote. What a powerful statement. It's not our darkness, it's our light. It's not our fear of being inadequate, it's our fear of being crazy successful that actually holds us back. I know that might feel a little bit heavy, but that's okay. That's what we do here, right? This is the place for straight talk about life and leadership. And the straight talk is that so many leaders really do hold themselves back. Whether it's the fear of what other people think or the fear of being too much, the fear of failure or the fear of success. Listen, the world needs you and it needs your leadership to be fully alive, fully unleashed, fully unfettered, fully free. That's when you're going to see the biggest impact for others, and that's when you're going to have the biggest fulfillment for yourself. Let me just wrap up with this. In the final 15 or 20 minutes of that horseback ride on the beach, I got permission from the wrangler to let my horse be who he was born to be, to do what he was born to do. Okay, I let out the rein. And as soon as I did, Rescudo took off and went right to the front of the pack, to the front of the line, took his place as the leader he was meant to be. As soon as I stopped holding him back, he stepped into the fullness of his purpose and his potential and his power. And I just want to say to you, if you're a leader watching or listening to this right now, it's time for you to let out the rein on yourself. It's time to run. It's time to move. It's time to take your rightful place at the front of the line. Don't let the fear of what other people think or the fear of being too much or the fear of failing or even the fear of succeeding hold you back anymore. Do not hold back. I want to say thank you for being with me today. I'm glad to have you on this leadership journey. If this was helpful, would you share it with somebody you know? If you're not already, make sure you subscribe so you can get notified every time a new episode drops. If you want to connect with me more, you can find me at themattware.com and at themattware on all the social channels. You can also sign up for a free email newsletter that I send out every week with leadership thoughts and insights. And I'd love to connect with you and encourage you that way as well. Until next time, go lead better and live bolder.